Hi, this is for Math 8. This is Level 2 for Systems of Equations by Graphing. The first two, you can definitely do those. So if you haven't done that, pause it and do those on your own and then check. But starting down here on number 3, we want to look at these equations. These are different. They're written differently than what you've been seeing in slope-intercept form. These are actually what we call standard form. So you need to do some rearranging of this. You can't just pull the m and say, okay, that's 5 and the y-intercept is 4. So we need to rearrange this to put it in slope-intercept form. So I want you to look at this equation. I'm going to rewrite it down here so you can see it. So go ahead and follow me and do the same thing. And if you notice, we have the x and y on the same side. Well, in slope-intercept form, you have the y by itself. So what do you need to do here to get the y by itself? Well, you're going to subtract the 5x, subtract the 5x. You want to move everything away from the y. So now I just have y equals, now I'm going to go ahead and put my x term first, negative 5x plus 4. That way now it's in slope-intercept form. Now I can use the 5. Before I would have put a positive 5. In slope-intercept form, it's actually a negative 5. Yes, this 4 does stay the same, but it doesn't always stay the same. So I'll show you one here that it'll change that number. So just don't pull that number and think it's going to be true. So now for this equation, your slope is negative 5 and your y-intercept is 4. And then you would graph it. But let's go ahead and change this one. So we're going to change this one. I'm going to bring this one down here. X minus y equals 2. Again, I want to get the y by itself. So I'm going to subtract the x because I want to remove it from this side to that side. And the only way I can mathematically do it is to do the opposite of what's being done. So this is a positive x, so I need to subtract it to make that go away. Now, watch this though. This is a negative, or like the opposite of y. There's really a negative 1 here in front. I'm going to put the x term first. Make sure it's negative x plus 2. That's a positive 2. Now be careful here. This is saying this is a negative 1. So I'm going to take negative 1. I want to get rid of that negative 1. So I'm going to divide every term by negative 1 because I want to make that a positive 1 in front of the y. Now you have a negative 1 divided by negative 1, which is a positive 1. So we just have an x. If you put a 1 there, that's okay. You won't see me do it though. Positive 2 divided by negative 1 is a negative 2. So there's our two equations that we have to graph. So this slope is a positive 1 and the y-intercept's a negative 2. So when it's in standard form, you can't just pull it to just put it right there. You've got to change it in slope-intercept form. So this takes some practice. And what I would like for you to do first is I want you to go through and change each of these to slope-intercept form. Write the slope and write the y-intercept, and then before you do any graphing, I want you to check your solution against the answer key with the sub. I don't want you to graph unless you have these correct because otherwise you could make a mistake. So definitely do that. So we're going to do this one together again. So we're going to move this one. I'm going to move it over here so I have some more room. And when you copy it down, pay attention to your signs. That's a negative, that's a negative. Okay, our goal is to get the y by itself. You want to move the x term. It's like solving your equations that you did a while back. When you want to solve for y, you moved everything away from the y. So you're going to subtract x. Be careful here. You have a negative 4y equals a negative, or the opposite of x, minus 4. Now here you want to divide, because this is being multiplied, the y is being multiplied by a negative 4. You want to divide by a negative 4. All right, so be careful here. What's this number? This is really a negative 1. Negative 1 divided by a negative 4. Be very careful. Negative and negative is positive, but 1 over 4, that's 1/4 x, not 4. So it's 1 divided by 4, not 4 divided by 1. And a negative 4 divided by a negative 4, anything divided by itself is always 1. That's a positive 1. Okay, so that is one of the equations that you're going to graph. And so the slope is 1/4 and the y-intercept is 1. Now let's take this one. 5x minus 4y equals 12. Subtract 5x. Bring down the negative 4y. Subtract 5x. add 12. Now you're going to divide by -4. Your whole goal is to get y by itself. So -5 divided by -4 is a positive 5/4. Do not change your slope when you're graphing it like this. When you do not change it to a mixed number, don't change it to a decimal because you need that rise over the run. 12 divided by -4 is a -3. So here's your second equation. So 5/4 and a -3. So before you do any graphing, I want you to go through and change all of these to slope-intercept form and then find the slope of the y-intercept. On number 7 and 8, just be careful. You want to get the y by itself. So you want to move everything else over. Watch your signs. Be careful on this one. So there's a lot of steps to it. So definitely check the answer key with the sub. And then when you're done with that, I want you to graph them. Now when you graph them, so we're going to go back to graphing this one. And then when you graph it, your solution, just like you've done before, the one solution, it should cross at one point. And then when you check, you must check in the original. I want you to check in the original equations because if you made a mistake changing it to slope-intercept, you won't find it. But if it doesn't work, then that's something is wrong. So that's what you're going to be focused on today. Work diligently, work hard, don't give up. You just have to watch every little step. Okay, and there's my phone. That means I need in.